I had spent 19 years of my life building the backbone of Meridian Tech Solutions here in Dayton, Ohio. My name is Danielle Carter, 52 years old, and for nearly 2 decades I had been the one quietly keeping everything running behind the scenes. The words hit me like a punch in the gut. We need younger employees, more adaptable, less rigid. Gregory Nash, the new VP of Operations, sat across from me in his sleek glass office, fingers tapping on his tablet like he was composing a symphony I could never hear. I had walked into what I thought was just another quarterly review, a routine I had mastered long ago. Instead, Gregory delivered what he proudly called workforce optimization, with all the confidence of someone who had never spent a weekend salvaging soaked servers or negotiating with panicked clients. "You're excellent, Danielle, but streamlining talent density is essential," he said, adjusting his tie. Everything about him screamed expensive business school and zero field experience. I nodded. I didn't argue. I didn't bang my fist on the desk or remind him that I had trained half the team he planned to keep. I simply collected my thoughts and replied, "Understood." Still, a chill settled in my chest as I walked back to my cubicle. For 19 years, I had been the person who made things work. When the server room flooded back in 2010, I had waded through ankle-deep water to salvage backup drives. When our largest client threatened to pull their contract over integration failures, I had spent 3 sleepless nights rebuilding their entire workflow system. Every automated script, every vendor connection, every emergency protocol existed because of me. Tricia from the support desk watched me carefully as I packed my things into a cardboard box. She was 27, fresh out of college, and had been asking me for months to teach her the back-end automation sequences. I had promised to train her properly when things slowed down. Now there would be no time. "Danielle, is this really happening?" she asked softly. I taped the box and looked around the office one last time. What Tricia and the others didn't know was that Gregory had just fired the only person who understood the company's entire infrastructure. The automation scripts, vendor protocols, emergency plans, they all lived in my head and encrypted files accessible only with specific credentials I had created. I shook hands with a few colleagues and left without ceremony. 3 weeks later, the dominoes began to fall. Systems failed, backups froze, and clients started calling with urgent complaints. I hadn't intended to become indispensable, but the company had been built around my knowledge, and now there was no one left to maintain it. When I had started at Meridian Tech in 2004, it was supposed to be temporary, a steady paycheck while I figured out my next move. My husband had passed away the year before, leaving me to support our daughter Emily through high school. The company was tiny then, just 15 employees, and I had brought 2 decades of systems integration experience from my previous job at an aerospace contractor. The owner, Harold Jennings, appreciated someone who could see 3 steps ahead of disaster. Over the years, I became the unofficial backbone of the company. When Harold sold Meridian Tech to a regional conglomerate in 2018, I stayed on. I had built vendor relationships, automated critical workflows, and created fail-safes that prevented catastrophic failures. But in the last year, I noticed warning signs. New management spoke in buzzwords, hired cheaper, younger staff, and treated experienced employees like liabilities. Gregory Nash arrived 6 months ago with a prestigious resume and immediately began implementing his optimization agenda. He reduced complex technical operations to pie charts and bullet points. Once he suggested our custom automation scripts could be replaced with off-the-shelf software. I tried to explain that our clients required specialized integrations, but he nodded politely, as if listening were enough. To him, I was just an aging employee with an inflated salary. What he failed to understand was that my outdated skills had been keeping the company alive for nearly 2 decades. Every uninterrupted server, every automated backup, every emergency recovery existed because of me. The subtle signs had been there for months. Fewer meeting invitations, requests to document every task in detail, questions about redistributing responsibilities. I had assumed it was normal corporate restructuring. I had been wrong. The call came on a Tuesday, 3 weeks after my termination. I was in my kitchen reviewing job listings on my laptop when Trisha's number appeared. "Danielle, I'm sorry to bother you, but we have a serious problem," she said, voice tight with panic. "What happened?" I asked, setting down my coffee. "The backup system failed last night. None of us can figure out how to restart it manually. Gregory brought in consultants yesterday to optimize your scripts, and now nothing works. 3 clients have already called about data issue. I felt a cold weight settle in my stomach. They had tampered with the automation scripts I had spent years refining. The system didn't accept vendor credentials. Error messages flashed endlessly. The chaos was exactly what my fail-safes were designed to prevent, but only if someone knew how to implement them. "Danielle, can you guide us through recovery?" Trisha asked quietly. I took a deep breath. "I never sabotaged anything," I said. "But I never shared administrative passwords or full procedural knowledge because no one requested a proper knowledge transfer. Redundancy only works when someone knows how to use it." Silence followed. I continued, explaining that the backup system required vendor authentication codes, the automation scripts referenced encrypted files, and the manual recovery procedures needed administrative privileges. They had no way to restore order without me. 2 days later, Gregory himself called. "Danielle, we're experiencing technical difficulties that could benefit from your expertise," he said carefully. "I'm aware," I replied. "I've accepted a position with Apex Integration Solutions. I start Monday." Gregory hesitated. "But they're our direct competitor. They're a professional organization that values experience over cheap optimization," I said, calm but firm. "Your decision to fire senior staff has consequences." By the weekend, I ran into Karen Miles, a project manager for one of Meridian Tech's largest clients at the local grocery store. She looked exhausted. "Danielle, thank God I found you," she said. "Our data systems have been down for 4 days. Every time we call for support, nothing gets fixed. Should we start looking for alternatives?" I sighed inwardly. Complex technical systems require continuity of knowledge. When that is disrupted, it can take months or years to stabilize. I can't advise on your business decisions, but you should be aware of the risks created by abrupt personnel changes. Karen nodded grimly. The situation was worse than I had imagined. The entire company had been built around my expertise, and removing me without transition planning had created cascading failures. Monday at Apex Integration Solutions was like stepping into a new world. Modern equipment, supportive management, and respect for expertise greeted me. Paula Reynolds, my new manager, understood my value immediately. "Danielle, we've been monitoring the situation at Meridian Tech. Several clients are requesting emergency migration services," she said. "We want to handle this ethically and effectively." Over the next weeks, I led the design of robust, secure systems for former Meridian Tech clients. Meanwhile, Trisha and other junior staff struggled to maintain the broken systems. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was doing the same work I had done at Meridian Tech, but with proper resources, support, and recognition. 3 months later, I learned that Meridian Tech had been acquired by one of its largest clients. Gregory called me to offer a senior position, attempting to lure me back with promises of better conditions and compensation. I politely declined. I had found a place that valued me for my competence, not discarded me for my age. 6 months later, my team at Apex had successfully migrated a dozen former Meridian Tech clients. Client satisfaction was at an all-time high. Tricia had joined my new team and was quickly becoming a skilled integration specialist. The lessons were clear. Short-sighted management destroys value, while competence always finds its proper recognition. And I had finally found mine. Settling into my new role at Apex Integration Solutions felt like finally coming home after years of wandering through offices where my expertise was invisible. My name is Danielle Carter, and for the first time in nearly 2 decades, I felt truly valued for the work I had dedicated my life to mastering. The office buzzed with focused energy, teams collaborating, engineers sharing ideas, and management actually listening to suggestions. It was everything I had been denied at Meridian Tech. Paula Reynolds, my manager, had given me full authority over integration projects and vendor negotiations. "Danielle, we want to approach this strategically," she said during our first week. "We're not just fixing broken systems. We're building long-term trust with these clients. I want your insight on every proposal." Over the following days, I reviewed the systems of 3 former Meridian clients, including Meridian Analytics itself. The complexity of their setups reminded me of why I had become indispensable at my old job. Custom automation scripts, legacy software patched together with modern platforms, vendor-specific integrations, every single component required detailed knowledge and precision. The consultants Gregory had brought in had not only failed to maintain the systems, they had actively broken critical workflows. I spent late nights documenting my plans for rebuilding each client's infrastructure. I created clear, modular designs with redundancy and fail-safes built into every layer. Unlike Meridian Tech, Apex invested in proper documentation and training, ensuring that no single employee would ever again become a single point of failure. I could feel a quiet satisfaction in knowing my work would have lasting impact, without the fear of being dismissed or undermined. Meanwhile, Tricia had officially joined my team. She was eager to learn and absorbed every detail like a sponge. I found myself mentoring her in the ways I had always wished someone had guided me when I first started. "Danielle," she said one evening as we reviewed an integration protocol, "I can see why you were so crucial at Meridian Tech. They didn't just lose a person, they lost the entire institutional memory of the company." I nodded. "Exactly. And that's why you're going to learn everything properly, so no company is ever in that position again." 3 weeks into our work, I began receiving calls from other former Meridian Tech clients. One after another, they recounted system failures, lost data, and frustrated employees. Word of the ongoing crisis had spread across the regional tech community. It was clear that Gregory Nash's strategy of replacing senior talent with younger, cheaper staff had not only failed, it had triggered a full-scale operational disaster. One afternoon I met with Carla Simmons, the CTO of one of the clients we were assisting. She was anxious but professional, a woman who clearly understood the stakes. "Danielle, we've been with Meridian Tech for over a decade. Never once have we experienced an outage like this. How is this even possible?" "I can't speak for their management decisions," I replied gently. "But I can tell you that complex systems like yours require experienced personnel who understand every integration point. Removing those people without proper knowledge transfer is like removing the keystone from an arch. You create instability that can take months to repair." Carla nodded. "We're lucky you're available. We need this stabilized before the end of the quarter." As the weeks passed, I led the migration of 3 major clients to Apex's platform. Each project required not only technical skill but diplomacy, rebuilding trust while ensuring no proprietary knowledge was compromised. Trisha and I worked late nights, reviewing vendor contracts, validating automation scripts, and designing recovery protocols. The difference between Apex and Meridian Tech was stark. Here, my experience was an asset. At Meridian Tech, it had been a liability. One Friday evening, as I finalized a migration proposal for a high-profile financial client, I received a call from Gregory Nash. His tone was careful, almost hesitant. "Danielle, I realize you're busy, but I wanted to update you on Meridian Tech. The situation is dire. Several clients have formally requested to terminate their contracts. We are scrambling to restore the systems, but progress is slow." I leaned back in my chair, feeling neither satisfaction nor gloating, just calm observation. "Gregory, I'm glad you're communicating openly. I'm sure your team is doing their best under the circumstances." "Honestly, Danielle," he continued, "we could really use your guidance. I know you've moved on, but your expertise is unmatched." I smiled faintly. "I appreciate the acknowledgement, but my focus is here at Apex. I recommend prioritizing proper knowledge transfer and training for your remaining staff. That's the only way to stabilize the systems in the long term." After hanging up, I reflected on how far things had changed. Meridian Tech had thought eliminating me would streamline operations and reduce costs. Instead, it had triggered a cascading failure that would take months to recover from, if ever. And yet I felt no anger, only clarity. Short-sighted decisions rarely end well. The real reward came 2 weeks later when Paula called to congratulate the team. "Danielle, the first set of client migrations is complete. Client satisfaction is at an all-time high, and we've received positive feedback from 3 former Meridian Tech clients who have now signed long-term contracts with us. Your leadership and expertise have set a new standard here." I glanced at Trisha, who was quietly beaming. "Thank you," I said, "but this is a team effort. Every client's success here is a direct result of investing in people and systems rather than treating talent as disposable, as we see." Liberated, I couldn't help but think of Meridian Tech's empty office, their frustrated clients, and Gregory's frantic calls. The irony was deliciously understated. I was doing the same work I had done for them for nearly 2 decades, but now with respect, support, and resources that matched the importance of the job. By the end of the 3rd month, we had successfully transitioned 5 major clients from Meridian Tech to Apex. Trisha was rapidly developing into a skilled integration specialist. Together, we had built systems that were not just functional, but resilient, scalable, and well-documented. The crisis at Meridian Tech had created an opportunity for us to demonstrate how expertise, proper planning, and ethical leadership could turn disaster into growth. One evening, as I left the office, I drove past Meridian Tech's old building. Half the parking spaces were empty, and the once bustling office now felt like a ghost of its former self. I realized something important. The best revenge isn't sabotage or confrontation. It's simply being better, being recognized for your true worth, and thriving in the right environment. For Danielle Carter, 19 years of diligence, loyalty, and expertise had finally found the home it deserved, and no short-sighted manager could ever take that away. By the beginning of the 4th month at Apex Integration Solutions, I had fully settled into my role as Senior Integration Specialist, and the momentum we had built with former Meridian Tech clients was undeniable. My name is Danielle Carter, and for the first time in decades, I was in an environment where experience was not only appreciated, It was leveraged as the cornerstone of success. Trisha and I had grown into a seamless team. She brought fresh perspectives, technical agility, and an eagerness that reminded me of my younger self. I found myself mentoring her with care, making sure that knowledge transfer was not just a formality, but a process that built confidence and competence. "Danielle, I can't believe how much I've learned in such a short time," she said one afternoon as we tested a new automation workflow. "It's like finally seeing how all the pieces fit together." "That's exactly the point, Trisha," I replied. "Systems aren't just about code or scripts. They're about understanding relationships between software, vendors, and people. If you skip that part, everything falls apart." Our first major challenge came in the form of a financial client who had been caught in the ongoing chaos at Meridian Tech. Their reporting infrastructure had failed multiple times, creating backlogs that threatened compliance deadlines. I spent hours with their IT team mapping out the legacy software, auditing existing automation scripts, and creating contingency workflows. Every decision was precise, every fail-safe carefully considered. Meanwhile, word continued to spread about the collapse at Meridian Tech. Calls from panicked clients were a constant reminder of the consequences of short-sighted management. I heard from several former colleagues, including Trevor, who had been promoted to a junior systems role despite the chaos. His voice carried both anxiety and determination. "Danielle, I don't know how we're supposed to fix anything," he admitted during one call. "Gregory keeps bringing in consultants, but they don't understand the infrastructure at all. We're literally flying blind here." I listened patiently, offering moral support without overstepping professional boundaries. "Trevor, the best thing you can do is document everything meticulously. Take each script, every workflow, and every configuration and make sure someone else can understand it if you're unavailable. That's the only way to prevent further disaster." 2 months later, Apex had successfully migrated 8 former Meridian Tech clients. Our reputation for reliability, competence, and ethical management spread quickly. New contracts poured in, and even clients who had been hesitant to leave Meridian were requesting proposals for full system rebuilds. Paula Reynolds called me into her office one morning with a smile. "Danielle, your work has completely transformed our regional presence," she said. "You've not only stabilized these clients' systems, but positioned Apex as the go-to provider for enterprises previously dependent on Meridian Tech." I smiled, but remained modest. "It's a team effort. Trisha, the engineers, and the support staff all played critical roles. We've built something sustainable. Systems that will keep running even if someone leaves or circumstances change." The turning point came when Meridian Tech was formally acquired by Horizon Analytics, a major regional competitor. Gregory Nash had been replaced, and the new leadership immediately initiated audits of all technical systems. I received a call from their legal team, surprisingly professional in tone, requesting confirmation that none of our work at Apex had used proprietary Meridian Tech information. I responded clearly, "All work done at Apex is independent and adheres to all intellectual property laws. Our systems are entirely our own designs and implementations." This was the moment I realized just how far I had come. Meridian Tech had attempted to undervalue me, push me aside, and disregard the expertise I had spent decades cultivating. Yet without any confrontation or drama, I had emerged stronger, with recognition, respect, and opportunity that had been denied to me for so long. Trevor, now working at Apex as a junior integration specialist, thrived under the mentorship I could finally provide. He was growing into a capable technician with deep knowledge and confidence, ready to ensure that no critical system ever depended solely on one person again. One evening, while reviewing quarterly performance reports, Paula stopped by my office with a bottle of champagne. "Danielle," she said, setting it down, "the board just approved your promotion to Chief Integration Officer. You and your team have successfully migrated 12 former Meridian Tech clients, and client satisfaction is at an all-time high. Your leadership has made Apex Integration Solutions the most trusted regional provider." I looked out my office window at the city skyline, the streets humming quietly below, and felt a profound sense of fulfillment. For years, my skills and loyalty had been underestimated and overlooked. Now they were recognized, rewarded, and amplified by an organization that valued competence, diligence, and ethical leadership. The best part was realizing that Meridian Tech's mistakes had created this opportunity. Gregory Nash's obsession with cost-cutting and replacing experience with youth had not only failed, it had inadvertently paved the way for me to thrive in the right environment. Their loss became our gain, and the clients had quickly aligned themselves with an organization that understood the real value of expertise. As the sun set that evening, I reflected on the journey. For 19 years, I had safeguarded systems, mentored colleagues, and quietly ensured operational stability. I had been dismissed, undervalued, and accused unjustly. Yet here I was, leading a team, shaping strategic decisions, and witnessing the direct impact of proper management and technical excellence. Sometimes the most satisfying revenge isn't about retaliation. It's about rising, succeeding, and letting competence speak for itself. I had found my place, my recognition, and my professional home. For Danielle Carter, the lesson was clear. Expertise cannot be replaced by buzzwords. Loyalty cannot be ignored without consequence, and the right environment transforms dedication into achievement. In the end, I had not only reclaimed my worth, I had amplified it, and in doing so, I had ensured that the lessons learned from Meridian Tech's failures would shape a stronger, smarter, and more resilient future for me, for my team, and for every client who trusted us with their critical systems.